One more powder now, one more powder tonight.
Hi everyone, this is the video for the sky and back blocking end basically for this for the live on Saturday night. This is the reference picture and it's a very sort of old and jiggered looking boat by the side of, I'm not sure if it's a sea. It looks like it might be the sea actually, but it's just been pulled up into this vegetation and looks like it's just left there to rot really. That was the reference, as I say, and this is what I did with mine when I painted it. I jollied it up a little bit, put all this vegetation in like that. I would alter it slightly when I'm doing it again, in as much as I'd leave some more shadow around the boat. This side's not too bad, it's got the shadow in, but this I think could do benefit from a little bit more room to allow the boat room to breathe. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down this land so as it comes to about here, because I just don't want to end the land going just at the tail end of the boat. It just doesn't look right on my eye, even although that actually is what happens. I don't like it, so I'm going to drop it down a bit. So the tail end of the boat will actually be in the sky as a background. So I don't think we need that anymore. I don't think we need mine anymore. It's a jolly little picture. I like doing it. I liked using the palette knife. I love the way the vegetation comes out with the palette knife. So we'll see what you can do with yours. So here's mine. It's a 16 by 12 canvas. I haven't done anything to it. I haven't even sanded it down because I'm going to use a palette knife. I want a fair bit of tooth. So I've left it as it is and just going to start blocking it in. And for the sky, I use phthalo blue. I'm using Winsor Newton Galleria on this occasion simply because when we were tidying up, we found a lot of these tubes. I don't normally use it, but it's, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. So I'm just going to use that. You don't need very much out, just for blocking it out. And some white. This is the same colour that I used to paint the boat, this phthalo blue. The same colour as the sky. And some white. So we're just going to do a gentle blend down the sky with a big brush. I'm just going to spritz it first so we get a bit of movement with our paint. And I'm using this brush, which is a 3/4 inch flat brush. Damping it down. This is damp already because I've been using it this morning. Damping it down, dry it off, and then take a little bit of this phthalo blue, and you really don't need much. It's a very strong colour. I mean, look at that, it's got loads of white in it and it's still really strong. And we still need more. It's incredible. Okay, I think that's probably enough to start with at the top, at any rate. So I'm just going to put it this way on. I just find it easier going that way. And start at the top, all the way along, and keep coming down. And keep adding a bit of extra white into that mix, so it's getting paler as we come down. A little bit extra white as you come down. This is such a pale colour, I think we're able to paint over our transfer marks and we'll still be able to see what's going on underneath it. So that's pretty much that really. I mean, if you want it darker, you know, darker at the top, start off with it a little bit darker, but I think that's fine. Just quite a nice, clear, sunny day. So there we are, that's the... Oh, Mr. Handyman's just shown me my original, it's much darker. I'll put some more blue in it then. thought it was quite pale, but obviously it's had it a bit bluer than I thought. I probably still had it bluer than that actually. You can make yours as blue or as white or grey or whatever colour you want, but I do recommend that you blend it down towards the bottom, because the sky, apart from unusual stormy circumstances, the sky always gets paler as you get towards the horizon. So this is still a bit lighter than the one I had originally done, but it'll be fine. Let's do that bit there on top of the land. Add a little bit more white into this section here. So there we go. That's nicely blended, I think. I'm sure some of you will have a blending brush, which is like a big mop that you can go over, but I think that's all right. Is that all right, Mr. H, or does it need to be darker? It's all right.
I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
If you think it will be, you're the artist.
I think it's all right. Right, so now I'm going to use my Deerfoot stippler, which I also was using this morning, so I'm just going to make sure it's dry, because you can't get nice fluffy clouds with a wet brush. So I think that's okay. It's a bit damp, but I'm going to take some of this pure white, stipple it into my brush, and then we'll just make some clouds. So we'll start up here at the top, and I can tell you right away that paint is anything but dry, so I'm going to have to dry that off. Right, I'm sure that's pretty dry by now. So back to the white. I'm just going to stipple some clouds in here. I was looking to see what I did last time, because I quite like the effect of last time's clouds. Now with acrylic paint you can just really get one layer down at a time. So put your shapes in that you want, but don't expect to be able to do too much more, you know, with regards to highlighting, etc. You really have to either dry it off with a hairdryer, or, you know, let it dry naturally. But clouds tend to sort of go away to wisps, really. They do have thicker bits, you know, thicker white bits, but that's quite a nice shape overall, I think. And then I've got these little wispy sort of ones here that are just going along and just almost joining up. I mean, they're probably miles and miles and miles away from each other in the sky, but when we are looking at them, they look like they're joined together. So with this Deerfoot stippler, you can just use the edge like that, the sort of toe of the stippler. You don't always have to use it like that. And as I say, they just tend to sort of fade away downwards. So I'm going to have to put some more white out. I mean, the thing about this is it's not about the sky particularly, but you know, it's a fair percentage. It's probably a good third of that painting. So you want to get it right. And the other thing is that the foliage and the boat are so I don't know what the word is, so raggedy looking that you want a bit of peace. You want a bit of peace in your picture, and the sky will afford that opportunity for your eye just to rest a little bit. So I'm just going to go back in here and just highlight these where I want the darker white, sort of thicker white, more opaque white. That's the right expression, more opaque. And this bit here is quite dense too. It's okay, quite like that. Just come back to these ones and just give them a bit of life. I mean, I made this up the first time, so I could make it up again, but I quite like how they look, so I'll stick with what I did. So more like that, and then it just comes away at the bottom. Okay. Is that looking okay to you, Mr. H? Yeah.
Cloudy McCloud.
Cloudy McCloud. Can't ask for much more. Just make sure that the bits that you want to be really white are white, and then they stand out quite nicely. So I'm quite happy with that. That's okay. So let's just move on to, well, let's just move on to this water, this section here. And actually, I'm just going to get some. Well, this is primary blue that I've got hold of, but it really doesn't matter. A darker, slightly darker blue than the phthalo gives us. Just need a teeny tiny bit. It's just we want some differentiation between the water and the sky, which I haven't managed to achieve on the one that I've already done. So I'm just going to take a bit of that primary, a tiny bit of that phthalo, because you know how potent that phthalo is. Mix them together. We'll just put this water in. So this line here should be quite straight because it's water. Water tends not to go uphill, just come downhill, however. And that's a lovely watercolour, isn't it? It's like the Mediterranean. Caribbean actually, I think. Just brush over it, smooth it down. So, is that far enough down? Maybe could do with another little bit. You're better off bringing it too far down and covering it over with vegetation than your vegetation stopping and you're not having any water there. That wouldn't be good. I mean, of course you can always bring your vegetation up to it. Of course you can. There we are. That's our sea, river, whatever it is. I think it's the sea. Do you think it's the same as Rich?
I think it probably is.
Yeah.
An estuary of some sort.
An estuary. Do you think that thing is a sandbar or like a headland or what?
Headland, I would say. Well, the other side of the estuary, I guess. So whether you would call that a bank or a spit of land or.
Really, I'm looking for what colour to paint it. Not all. It could be an isthmus. Isthmus. How do you say that word?
Isthmus.
Isthmus. Yeah, could be that.
It's true.
Guess who listened in geography? Not an oxbow lake though. They are different. Right, I've got some brown out, and I'm all some brown. That's really helpful too, isn't it? Some raw umber, and I'm also going to get out some raw sienna, and I'm just going to mix up some landy type colour. Landy type? It's a description, isn't it?
If we're going to sort of a Mediterranean stroke Caribbean type feel, then that's probably the colour to go for.
That sort of colour that I've just mixed.
We
yeah.
want pine trees or rainforest.
I'm just going to make this slightly more interesting than it is. It's just getting on my wick a bit, being just there and dull. It's not serving any purpose in our painting. And if you're going to paint it, it should be there for a reason. So let's give it a bit more life about itself. Get real. That looks a little bit better. Now I've got here, that's where the other side of the boat comes. So I'm just going to put a little bit of land in there. The vegetation does come up and over, but there might just be a little bit of land that you can see there. So I'm just going to put that in on the off chance that it's visible. Okay. Is that alright? Have I done something wrong? It's alright. No, it's wrong. What have I done?
The back of the boat comes...
It comes up here, down, up here, and then down. That's the down line there.
Yeah, but wouldn't you see the land through the...
No, because I've dropped... Oh yeah, the land, possibly. Yeah, let's put land in there then as well. Okay.
In the bottom of the U-shaped...
It's quite hard to see, isn't it? I have to draw it in again.
Maybe your reference...
It comes up to there, then it comes down, then it goes up to there, then it comes down. Right, that's it there.
You might just see a bit of that.
So that comes across there, so yeah, you might see like 2 mils.
If you put that in at this point, it'll help you to place the back of the boat easier when you come to it, maybe.
That's it, that's literally it. And the back of the boat's going to be a similar colour, but you know, we can change that. We'll make the back of the boat a different colour. Shall I give it a bit of interest? There we are, look.
We can move mountains.
I can build them. Now I've got my builder's hat on, I'm off. I think that's okay. I could put more detail on them. If at the end I'm looking at it and it really looks like it needs more detail, I'll give it more detail. For the interim, I think it's okay. You can be as adventurous with yours as you desire. Right, so now we're on to the boat itself, which I painted in raw sienna as a blocking in colour. I've got this little bit of raw sienna up here, which I'll bring down to there, so it's more accessible. This one is a Liquitex one, for the same reason as the colour. They were unearthed and so now they're being used. So actually for this I'm going to use a 3/8 angle shader. I don't need the titchiness of the 1/4 inch when I come in to do this. So this is literally the blocking in. You don't need to be too pedantic about it all. It's just so when we come in with the palette knife, if we if the palette knife skips bits, which it does, that's the beauty of the palette knife, then we've got an undercolour that's okay if it shows through. So I'm using this as a sort of wood colour, sort of treated wood colour that would be suitable for a boat. The boat in the reference picture is kind of really dilapidated and dark, and when you look at that picture, there's not really any highlights, there's no lowlights either, pretty much. It's just all mid-tones, and an all mid-tones picture is dull, very flat. Put that front bit on, it goes about there, I think. Let's draw that on so you can see what I'm doing. It's just a bit at the top here, comes down, joins onto that. There's a little square bit at the top, which I'm sure you've got transferred because you're probably more clinical than I am in things. I won't say I'm slapdash, try not to be slapdash. So basically this is all I do with the boat, just block it in, just so you've covered the canvas. So as I say, when the palette knife skips, it's got something underneath. You don't even need to try and get it too even. Bit of texture for a palette knife is good. You get, the more texture you've got down, the more texture you'll get when you come to use the palette knife. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going right down to the bottom of the transferred line on these planks, but I'm leaving a little line there, which is where one plank ends and the other begins, because if I paint it all in, I obviously won't know that, will I? So I'm just leaving a little gap. It will ultimately be painted in black, so it's fine. Do this quite roughly, as I say, try and get some texture in there if you can. We'll be grateful that we have.
A little boaty fact.
Yeah, give me a boaty fact.
When the planks overlap like that, it's called clinker built.
Yes.
And when they're butted up to each other, it's called carvel.
Oh, is it?
So that's it. It's a clinker built fishing boat.
Ah, there we go. I call mine the Miss P, because we sat last night trying to work out a name for it, but I didn't want to have to write on the Missy, sorry, not Miss P. I might call this one the Miss P. We sat last night and Mr. Handyman went through anagrams of Miss Paintalot. There was one that was particularly rude, that I won't share with you, but if you fancy putting in anagrams of Miss Paintalot, I'm sure you'll find it. I opted not to use it. I thought it might be offensive. So as I say, I'm just leaving this line down there in between the clinkers. Is that what they are? Are they clinkers or just planks? No. Half a story again. Half a story, folks.
A complete story. It's you that adds the embellishments.
This seems to have a funny shape to it, but this is a faithful representation of the boat, so I'm going to faithfully do it. So there we are. I've still got the top to do. I can do this sort of right up to the top. I know where that's going. This side is darker, it's really in shadow. But I'll be able to get that with the paint with the palette knife. Don't need to worry about it at this stage. So that's kind of that. Now then, this top part here, the very top rail, is wood. I've left it as wood in my picture. I quite like that, so I'm going to do that again. So I'm just going to take a bit of raw umber and a bit of the sienna, raw sienna, mix it together, not overly well. So I want it to look quite. So which bit is it? It must be this bit. So you don't hear of carvels very often, do you? They must be less popular, I think.
Well, it's the method of construction. It's not a type of boat.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I've heard of
Like
clinkers.
If people talk about cars, they wouldn't say, "Oh, I've got a monocoque."
Well, if you did, you'd have something like a Dyson, wouldn't you, or whatever you call them, McLaren, on your Hoover. Oh dear.
That's this Hoover in the West.
Exactly, something like that.
Yeah. No, generally when you describe things, you don't refer to the method of its manufacture.
No, it's true, that is. That's true.
Because you probably get clinker-built skiffs, clinker-built yachts, carvel-built liners. I mean, I'm guessing here, but
Yeah, you might be right. Who knows, eh?
who knows? Some old sea dog.
Yeah, probably does know.
As I've said before, whatever you can imagine is an expert somewhere.
That's not right, is it? Because they come up to the top, but I haven't got anything up on my top.
Where's your original picture? You're guessing again, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm doing what I saw. Oh, it's because there's rope there, which I've just avoided. So I'm going to have to put that in higher up, like I have on mine,
Yeah.
to meet there.
Yeah. Make it make more sense
Yeah.
visually.
Yeah, because that is not making sense.
I mean, we don't want money for old rope, do we?
I don't want to include the old rope. It's just too ropey. So that is going to be part of. That is going to be what this is there. So that's all right. This side's more in shadow anyway, so I'm not fussed about it. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and darken it down because I can. Right. So this one along here, that's coloured in. That's painted, old paint. Okay, that's fine. Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just need to see the drawing again. Thank you. Did you do it on your last one, did you? Yes, you painted.
I painted it in.
You painted it blue.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine like that.
It is.
It's just the rail, the top rail that you want to be wood, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to use another colour now, which is neutral grey. Neutral grey.
So good she said it twice.
I don't need that there, thank you. It's just Mr. Handyman's taking note of everything that I use, so I can give you a list of things that I've used throughout the painting. And I gave him a list of what I thought was everything, which transpired is obviously not.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So this grey goes. It's the inside of the boat. So that's a sort of a side, if I'm right in this. Then we have the back, which is there, and that comes down like that. I'm still not sure what's quite going on here. This is definitely the back here, that much I do know. Comes round like so.
Part of the side.
So this is the side too.
Your triangle that you haven't done.
Yeah.
So that's part of the side.
Right. Part of the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right, so now I'm just going to get a touch of black. Just draw some sort of, paint some kind of latified things inside it. Things that make it look like a lat. So this is the point of the back and it comes in like that. Then these come across, there's a fairly thickish one on the top. And then they come from there and they're sort of like that. And there's two washer type things there. And there's probably a bit of white actually as well on top of those lats. And then here, I have no idea what goes on. It's just all bright. It's just all grey, so I'm going to leave it all grey. That must come in like that with a similar sort of business going on, I guess. So I'll put two sprue things on it as well.
That's pretty much its general shape, I think.
So I'll just rinse that off and just get a little bit of white, seeing as we're busy with that, and finish it off and then it's done. Just a teeny weeny bit that you need. Still using my angle shader. 1/4 inch angle shader, a girl's best friend. Just put a little bit of white just to split these planks, bits of wood up like that. That's all you need. That's fine. So that's given us now the back of the boat, which it took us a long time last night to fathom out where the back was in relation to the front, but that's right, that's fine. So this bit that goes along the top must be like a darker bit of wood, or a lighter bit. No idea. Any idea?
Where were we talking about?
This bit.
You actually pictured that is very light, top flat rim.
Alright, so it's more sort of grey than anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm painting that in because it's almost impossible to paint that in with a palette knife. And I'm just going to paint this, add a little bit of grey to that and see what we get. Just for the, coming down here. I want a similar sort of colour but different enough that we can paint over it and not get lost.
On the original, that sort of real front end has actually got a slight bluish.
Yeah, yeah, it's like bluish tinge to it. Well, I can put that in with the palette knife really, it's kind of the top layer.
I think by the general shape of the boat, it's probably some sort of beach fishing vessel, because it's got a very
Short draft.
Shallow keel, short
Yeah.
draft, and because it's quite wide, so when the tide goes out, it doesn't flop all over onto its side.
Ah,
If
yeah.
it was a much deeper keel, it'd fall over on its side. And
Do you know what, Mr. H? I never knew you knew so much about boats.
And if the tide came in, it could fill up before it rights itself.
Yes.
So you need it not to fall over, so that there's immediately the water comes, it bobs around rather than fills
Whoever
up.
knew all of this? Who knew? Well, I mean, I guess some of you might have known, but I, for one, had no clue. I like that colour that we've just painted that in, it's nice. It's raw sienna with a bit of the grey, and it comes back up here, sort of as a keel.
It's a keel, yeah.
So if you can get all of this done by Saturday night at 7 o'clock, then you'll be able to join me as we do the palette knife business. Now that's quick. It goes very, very quickly. And it is enormous fun. It's brilliant. I love it. So there we are. That's the boat, isn't it? Why have I left that colour? There's no reason it should be that colour, shouldn't it?
Yes, on yours painted it in.
Just for some reason I've just not painted it.
Started off with blue, didn't we? Blue, then red, then blue, then red.
Yeah.
All the way to the bottom.
So this should be underpainted in this sienna colour. Same as all the other clinkers. I like that word.
You would, you're going to put some type of colour around the top on the flat edge.
Some grey, I think, or something similar to that sort of.
Sort of a bluey grey type. Just to make it stand out from the inside. This is the bit most likely to have some sun on it.
Yeah. You don't have to be too precious about this at all. It's just an underpainting for some palette knife work. Right, so this section down here looks like it's originally been painted with a tiny bit of blue in it, and everything else has dried up. So I had some sienna, I had some grey, like that, and I'm just going to add a wee bit of the blue, which gives us that lovely colour. Look at that. It's gorgeous. Just the job. Oh, might not be blue enough when I'm painting with it. Need a bit more blue, I think. That's alright. It's got an undertone of blue, which is near enough for us today.
It's different from the other colours, so it reminds you that them two bits are different.
Yeah.
In a different plane, as it were.
Not a plane. We're not going on to planes now. I don't think that's anything I would ever paint, really. A plane. They don't hold that much interest. Not to paint. I mean, I'm quite interested in them per se, but not to paint. Not when I could paint flowers.
It's true.
Hope you lot are impressed by the fact that we haven't had a week of flowers for a little while. That's not to say I'm not still painting flowers, because I can't help myself, but I thought that people like Brian and whatever, being the male of the species, might be a bit fed up with flowers by now. So it's just a sort of bit of sun bleach to the top of the top rail, the top of the top rail. And it is old and jiggered, you know. It's not exact anymore. It's seen a few summer fishing expeditions. I'm good at fishing, aren't I?
Oh, crab fishing in particular.
Do you want to tell a story?
It's best of you, because you really need sort of you need the action.
Well, we were down, I think we were in on the Welsh coast.
Arlick?
No.
Aberystwyth?
You had to go through Barmouth, that's it. Barmouth. Yeah, we were at Barmouth with the family, with Mr. Handyman's family. And in amongst this was 2 young children. So we decided, Mr. Handyman and myself, would take the youngsters fishing, crab fishing. I've never been crab fishing before. I didn't really know how to go on, but anyway, Mr. Handyman handed me this sort of piece of plastic, like you would wind if you do embroidery, like a sort of cardboard or a kite, okay, a cardboard spool thing that's got string wrapped around it. And he handed it to me and he said, just drop that in the water. So I went to a bridge that was over the water and I dropped it in. Which apparently wasn't the right thing to do at all, because it just disappeared.
What I actually said was keep hold of that and drop the end in.
I didn't hear that, you see. I was getting so excited about it.
Effectively, just oid the whole thing in.
I did. That is literally what I did. I hoid the whole thing in. I'm just going to go over that
This
again.
was the end of the crab fishing.
Well, it was, because we then had no implements to crab fish with. Fortunately, the children saw the funny side. But we had to buy the kit again because it didn't actually belong to us. Right, so we're moving on to the greens now. In the requirements for the greens, I have just said any greens that you've got is fine. I'm going to put the darker ones down first, and then when we come to putting the then when we come to putting the palette knife foliage on, we can go mad with all the lights, knowing that the darks are there. So I'm using Sennelier Hooker's Green and Liquitex Hooker's Green, and they're actually different colours. Different brands, different colours. You need a fair bit of this actually. When I say different colours, they are both green, but you can see what I mean. They're quite different tints to them, aren't they? Hue is the colour, so they're both green. I've tidied me blooming colour wheel away. Do you like all my new plastic storage? It's not bedded in yet, in as much as I'm not sure where to go for anything. And I don't want to, Dorothy suggested I put labels on it, but I don't want to do that until I know everything's actually where I want it. Which, read for that, all the things I don't use and made their way to the bottom drawers that I can't reach. So I'm literally just putting this on. Where it goes is where it goes. You don't need to worry about brush marks or anything. Don't worry about anything. Just your only concern is getting the canvas covered. That's all. You can go any which way you like. You can make texture if you like. You know, you don't need to flatten it out, make it super smooth.
It's better if you don't.
It is better if you don't, because although it's very tempting, I mean, it is better if you don't. I'm going to put some dark down in here because I know that the corner there is quite dark, but we could put that in later, so you don't need to even worry about that. I'm going to put some dark up the side of the boat here. But once again, we could put that in later, so it's not a big deal. And there's some dark up here. So this has been fun, hasn't it? Because all we've done is just plunked paint down without a care, really. Without a care. Ne'er a care. As I say, if you can get texture on it a little bit even, a little bit of texture, not a little bit even, a little bit of texture even. What happens to that? Oh, it sort of goes over it a bit, so just... So that's kind of that. That's about as much as we can do at this stage. It's looking fine. Looking good. And I shall see you on Saturday night, 7 o'clock, for our regular Saturday night live. If you can get to this stage, that would be really good, and then you can join me in doing the palette knife business. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks very much. Bye. Sorry that we're a little bit late tonight. Facebook seems to be doing what Facebook does best and being a bit naughty. Actually, in the future, coming up relatively soon, I want to be changing out pretty much everything I do over onto YouTube. It's much easier to stream onto YouTube in better clarity, really. So we'll try always to do this Saturday Night Live on Facebook, because I know that some of you find it easier, but it's really easy to go onto YouTube. You just look at my channel and it will be always scheduled that it's live, and as soon as it goes live you'll be able to watch it and interact just like you do here. So just before we get started with tonight's painting, the boat, I just wanted to give you a bit of a tour around the Miss Acrylic Paintalots group and let you know what's going on, what people are up to, what I'm up to. And so I thought I'd start with last couple of months we've been, every Saturday night I think it was, I was releasing a video which culminated in us all having a painting of the Tuscan house. Now, quite a few people joined in that, many of which didn't feel confident enough to paint their finished picture, to post their finished picture up onto our group, but they did feel that they could show them to me privately. And we've had some really good results, we really have. And so when we finished that, we started another one, which we're now releasing twice weekly, Wednesday and Saturday, I think it is. Up onto YouTube, and it's the old barn. Mr. H, could you go down to the overhead camera? Thank you. This is well, that's not it, that's my painting of it. This is the picture of the old barn, and it's really lovely. I love this photograph. So many photographs don't make good paintings, and at some stage we'll go through that and work out why that is. But this makes a beautiful painting. It's framed from this old boxcar that's just sort of been ditched here in this farmyard, and it's looking out to this very dilapidated old barn. So this is where we're up to at the moment. Yay. And it's coming along nicely. We've got the roof done, the sky, the old barn. We just need to put the side in here, our grasses and our 2 bits of wood down the side, and there we are. And I think people are really enjoying doing this one. Actually, I've had some really good feedback about this one. I'm enjoying it too, actually. So that's on YouTube, and my YouTube channel is simply called Miss Paintalot. So go to YouTube, put in Miss Paintalot, and up I'll pop. The next thing that I wanted to tell you about was this painting here, which is another picture from, I'm not sure that you can see all that in one go, it's quite a long picture there. It's from Pixabay, but it's been digitally messed around with before she posted it, and I really love it. It gives this very, very loose impressionistic style, and I thought that would make a lovely video. So I've just before we came on air, actually, I've just been messing around with this sheep here. I did it so quickly, but you know, I'm getting there. I'm getting the right the right idea. So that actually will be a video that will be for download for sale, which is a new departure, not really what we set out to do. But it'll generate some income, which will generate me some paint, which will carry on generating the free videos. So that's for the future. I'll let you know how that one's progressing and when it's up for download. It won't be very expensive, don't worry. So that brings us to tonight's painting, which is this old boat. This was a picture from paintmyphotos-art.com, and they have so many photographs. You just get lost in it. You know, there's so many that you look at and you know, I'd love to paint that and that. So, you know, my downloads file now is just massive with things that I really want to paint. But I looked at this and I thought, it's interesting, but it's kind of all mid-tones. There's not really any, you know, there's little bits of light in here and there's the sky, but really with regard to this, it's kind of dull. So I thought I'd jazz it up a bit, and that's what I did. I did this one. So I sort of gave it some old paint type job over it, and then I did all of this foliage with a palette knife, and this as well with a palette knife, and it's really nice. I mean, you get some very interesting passages with a palette knife, you know, some really nice bits. But then when I looked at it again, I realised that I'd actually overdone the palette knife stuff, because there's a big shadow down here that I should have left a bit more of. And there's a big shadow here, which I think would have made it look much nicer. So bearing that in mind, we'll set sail with our boat. Oh yes, that's the other thing I meant to tell you about. We have a new microphone. People were telling us that they were struggling to understand what I was saying, and one particular lady said that I wasn't enunciating properly. So I took that on board. I reported back to Mr. Handyman, and he dutifully went out and bought a new microphone and a new expensive lead. So we've given it a trial. I sat here and read out nursery rhymes and then we listened to it back and we think it's a lot better. It's stopped all the sort of whistling from the fire because it's directional, so it's only directed at me, so it should be picking up quite clearly what I'm saying. And if Mr. H, who's sitting behind the camera, wants to speak, he's going to have to speak up a bit more than normal because, as I say, it's pointed simply at me. So it should cut out the background noise. Not that I'm saying Mr. H's background noise, but it should cut out everything else. And it, hopefully you should be able to hear me. I know a lot of the time when I am painting, my head's down and I'm kind of talking to my chest, really. That's just the way it is. I can't possibly paint and keep my head up. I can't do it. Nobody can do it. Well, I can't do it. So we're hoping that that's solved that problem. I really am hoping so, because it was expensive. So let's get cracking. I gave you a list on the group of the requirements. I just said palette knife because, I mean, they come in every shape and size. They really do. You know, there's loads of them.
Jeanette Hess.
Oh, yes.
It says hello.
Hiya.
And I think Susan's on as well.
Hello, Susan.
Unfortunately, I'm not getting the same amount of detail as I normally get, so people have to bear with me.
Facebook's been in a really funny mood tonight. So, yeah, I just wanted to show you that there are all sorts of shapes and sizes of palette knife, depending what you're aiming for. You know, there's a shape that's going to suit you. But I've selected, I'm not very experienced in palette knife work, so I've selected what I think might be useful. This is a long, thin one.
Susan says hi.
Hi, Susan. Thanks for posting your picture. You little devil. You're rushing ahead, aren't you? It's looking good, though. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm really enjoying that old barn.
There's a part goes on this evening.
Yes, there is.
O'clock,
yes, there is.
One
Yeah. So, but none of those will bring you up to having that wood down the right hand side. So when we've all finished, you'll be sitting, you know, when you're finished, we'll still have some work to do, but the grass will that's a detailed thing and it takes a long time. Actually, I'm thinking of doing that, speeding up my when I'm painting that, because it's kind of tedious. I like it because I love details, but we'll see when we get there. So as I say, I've got this long thin one. This is quite a long thin one too. Then there are these three which look pretty similar to me, and I think that they put these in every set of palette knives because I think they're classed as mixing knives. You'll have seen me before mixing my paint up with these, and I think they call them mixing knives, but I think they might be just the right size for us. So I'm going to leave those out as well. I don't think I need 3 of them, incidentally. This is kind of, you know, a wash, wear and spare type job going on here. So let's do the boat first, and then we'll move on to the foliage. So for the boat, I have used phthalo blue and white. And if you look on my painted version, you'll see that this part here is in shadow, and then it comes around to the sun here. And actually this side here, this whole side is also in shadow. The light is just on there. So I need the phthalo blue as is at the back here, and then I'm going to mix it with some white for the front part. The red, I've used Pyrrole red for the front part. You can use any bright red that you've got. You know, I'm not choosy about it. And then I said on the list of requirements, alizarin crimson. You could really, if you wanted to, mix some tiny bit of black through your Pyrrole or your bright red or whatever. I've got alizarin crimson, so I've used that for the dark, and it looks very nice actually. I like the way that that's worked out. So that's explained that. So let's just put our colours out using one of my little, I'll call it a mixing thing for want of a better expression. And a little bit of crimson, and in between times I'm just going to wipe off surplus paint onto some kitchen towel.
We've also got neutral on there.
Yeah, that's another thing of interest actually. You have to speak up, Mr. Rachel, one here. We've gone neutral on our palette. We used to have a piece of clean white paper under the palette, but I felt, both for me and for you, that it made it difficult when I was mixing colours for you to actually see. If I was mixing white through something, you couldn't really see it. So we've gone for a neutral colour on the palette, and I think it makes it kind of easier for you to see what's occurring. Hopefully, anyway. That's the idea.
Royce says
Hi,
hi.
Royce. I did a post the other day with loads of your decoupage papers. Did you see it? They are beautiful. Royce Hunt Bell, as she is now, designs a lot of shabby chic papers, tissue paper, or designs full stop, for Zazzle. And before I knew that it was her that did them, I always seemed to select hers because they were, to me, by far the prettiest on all of Zazzle. And then I posted something that I'd done with it, and she contacted me, and we became friends. And in fact, I think at one stage we did a live together, didn't we, Royce? It was a bit of a fiasco, I seem to remember. You were doing it on your knee or something. Oh dear. But anyway.
There was a bit of a time delay, which didn't help.
That's right. It was a bit of a laugh anyway. And I got to know you, which was really nice. I'm glad. For that, I am grateful. So I'm just checking what I did with the other one. So this one here at the top is blue. I'll just mix up some of this lighter blue now, so we've got it when we need it. This is the bit that goes at the, is this called the prow?
Yes.
Where do you think I got that from? I don't know.
On your clinker built boat.
Yeah, on the clinker built boat. If you didn't watch the video for the preparation for this, you won't know what that is. And I'm not telling you, you'll have to watch the video. Not that it's madly exciting. Right, so I'm going to use, because this one is quite a little narrow job here, so I'm going to use my little thin job. What you do is you get it, you spread it out, you need a bit more than that, you spread it out so it's nice and even like that.
Royce says you're so sweet, thank you. You're going to push me into playing with canvas.
Yep, yes I am. So you spread that out so it's nice and thin, and then you just take your knife and pick up a curl of it like that along the blade, and then you put it on, and that's kind of it. I mean, there's no secret to this. And the reason that we're using a palette knife, this one a little bit on the end there to do that. The reason we're using a palette knife and not an artist's brush as we normally do is that you can't get this sort of mark. You can't get that sort of mark with a brush. It just doesn't happen. So let's put that along there. Now you see the reason why I actually painted a background colour in, because the palette knife doesn't cover everything. And if you get it to cover everything, then you've lost the whole purpose of actually using a palette knife. Now then, for this next one down, I think I want a palette knife that's a bit thicker than that. It's probably a bit long. Don't feel I'll be in control of that. Might save that for when I'm a bit more accomplished. So this one out, which is going to be red, and then this one here is going to be blue, phthalo blue. And I love this effect of it, sort of just peeling off.
Some people may find it easier to turn the canvas and go up to down as opposed to left to right.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference. Just
I mean, that is so true. Never ever, when you're painting or palette knifing or whatever, never ever feel that you can't turn your canvas. You absolutely can. You know, it doesn't make you rubbish or anything like that. If you're more comfortable going that way, then turn your canvas round. And when you're painting, you know, whatever. So there, I think that's probably enough on there. But if you go on and you carry on putting more and more on it, you've lost the effect of it being old paint that's flaking off, I would say. So spread it thinly and then get a curl on the back like that. So I'm just holding it at an angle so I get the curl side down, and then there's a tiny little bit in there, which might be just testing my palette skills a little bit too far. I'll just put that in because it actually needs some of the lighter, the phthalo blue that we've lightened. So let's go into that. Spread it out, pick up a curl, and we'll just come along the top here. I don't really want to go over that the bit right, this bit, with the blue paint. So just overlap it a little bit so it's a sort of blend. There we are. Nice. I find this more relaxing than when you're doing dainty little bits of paint live, let's say. When I'm doing details on my paintings at home, I'm perfectly happy. I love doing details, but sometimes live it is a bit fraught. And if you've never done a live, you don't understand. You don't understand. Especially tonight when things aren't going right with Facebook and whatever. So I'm just blending those two colours together there, just to see there they're blending together, which gives it a more authentic look. This along here. Mr. Handyman's been very busy today. He's been doing his, you know, the relief flowers that he did before. He's done part 2 to that, which is very nice. It's been varnished, so I can't show it to you because it's sopping wet with varnish. So you have to wait till next week. Worth waiting for, it's very nice. So there we are, that's kind of our blues in. I love these gaps. If you don't like those and you want to put them in with a paintbrush, that's fine, do that, you know, if you're more comfortable doing that. So there's just the other side to go. I've got too much white on there really. I'm not fussy if it's a sort of mid blue. I don't really want it to disappear completely, this, which it's in danger of doing. So spread it out, pick up a curl. Yeah, that's alright. I want to be able to see this. On mine I think I made it a bit dark. So I quite like that. I'm happy with that. And then this. Now I know this looks odd that they don't match up, but they actually don't.
Well, they probably do, but it's that big beam round the front.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. The prow,
this bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually sticks out quite a way, so it distorts the way the lines look.
So that's that. I've just got a bit onto my foliage, but that's it off there now. And there isn't really another one. The red is the bottom. This red here is the bottom. So that's looking mighty fine. So move on to our reds.
Crystal says looks great.
Hiya Crystal, thanks for posting your mermaid today. She's lovely. Everything you post is always lovely. Crystal is a very experienced artist, and when she posts things, I always go, oh, it's beautiful. How can I do that? Her style and my style are completely opposite, really. I'm sure she'd be the first to agree with that. But it certainly doesn't stop me admiring them. They're beautiful. So I've got my curl of paint on my palette knife. I'm just going to do the back of this, bring it along, kind of to the same place as we stop the dark phthalo. Same here. You will notice when you do this that the angle that you have your palette knife at in relation to the canvas is critical to how it goes on. So you want it at quite a shallow angle really. And a lot of that is real experimentation. So you're just going to have to kind of keep trying until you get where you want to be. Now I'm just mixing a bit of this Pyrrole through the crimson so we get a colour in the same sort of temperature zone as this. Need a palette knife that's just smaller, not so fat. No, it can be fat as it wants, but just a bit shorter. Okay, that's all right. Let's not worry. This is palette knife painting, people, and we're not going to worry about it. That's the whole idea. Okay, so there's just that hint there, which is actually all that you can see when you really examine the picture. So now we want some of the bright red, whatever it is, whatever shade it is that you've got that's your bright red. Now is the time. So spread it out quite thinly. I'm thinking one of these Saturdays I'm going to do lino printing with you, because that's great fun as well, isn't it, Mr. H?
Yeah. Does it involve sharp implements?
Yeah, it does involve sharp implements. So if you're not a responsible adult, it's not for you. Just putting that down there. So as I say, at this stage, it's really up to you to see how much you want to leave of the wood of the old boat showing through. You know, how much paint has this still got on it? And that is entirely up to you. It could be completely painted out if you do it with a brush. It could be just tiny little bit on from a palette knife, up to you. But it's great fun, it really is. And you know, you'll see when we get to the vegetation that it just goes so quickly. And there's kind of no, that I can see, there's no wrong way of doing it. You know, it gets the paint on there, it's great fun. So, you know, what can you be doing wrong particularly? I might have to use my little thin fellow. Where is he? Here he is, this one here. I might need to drop more paint as well, actually. You will see as well, actually, when we do the foliage, that you get through a ton of paint. So I would suggest, if you've got craft paints or cheaper brand of paints that you are using up, it might be a good way to use them up, to be honest. Okay, I'm happy with that boat. It's got enough. It's got enough on it. It's got enough peeling off. Excellent, marvelous, great start. Right, now at this stage you've got a kind of decision to make. Oh no, not a decision. You see, on mine I painted black between the colours because it's old and I thought that was more in keeping with it. But you see how this has left this light colour, and it gives the boat a whole different appearance. So it's up to you whether you want to leave those light and paint white over them, or cream or whatever, or you want to paint black over them and it'll look like that. Which do you want, Mr. H?
Black.
Black. Black it is.
Black for me, please.
Fine, that's grand. That's no problem. So this bit I did do with a brush, I must be honest. I didn't think my palette knife skills were up to that yet, and may never be, who knows. But I just love these passages of texture that you get, which you just can't get with a brush. And you'll see when we move on to the foliage. Oh, it's just like just let loose. So these lines go down there. You don't need to be too picky with them. You absolutely do not need to be too picky. I'm just going to turn it this way because it's easier for me. It doesn't matter whether they're thick or thin, particularly straight or particularly not straight. I'm having to keep my hand at a weird angle because this paint's still wet. So they're not the straightest in the world, but they're near enough.
Crystal said the clouds look so good.
Thanks, Crystal. Wow, that's nice of you to say so. Actually, Crystal, do you think that people would like a tutorial on clouds? People seem to struggle with clouds. Tend to make them into sort of little cotton wool type nonsense.
Legless sheep.
Legless sheep, yeah. So I don't know whether people would benefit from that or not. Okay, so that's that put in. We're now black. We've still got bits of white showing through. If you really want to, paint it all out. I just like that. It looks even more of a wreck. So I'm also going to paint this prowy type thing, whatever it is. But before I do that, I'm going to put some palette knife business on the top. And for that, I'm going to use burnt sienna. I can't remember if I said to you burnt sienna in the list of requirements. If I didn't, and you've got crimson, add a tiny bit of black to it and you'll be fine. I don't need very much here. Which knife? I need a little, that one. Nope. Must be the one in the water. Yep. Okay, so just as before, spread it out on the palette. Oh, we're going to have enough room here for our greens.
Roy says yes, cloud tutorial please.
Yeah? Okay.
Smiley face.
Okay, I'll do one in a week, and I shall post it to both Facebook and YouTube, so you're bound to catch it somewhere. They're really easy. Don't get hung up on clouds. So this is just coming around the top here, just to bring this to life a little bit. See the difference that makes? It's just lovely. You've just got to get some palette knives. We bought a set, didn't we, not long ago? How much was it? This is one of them actually. They're called Meeden, M-E-E-D-E-N. I think we got them on Amazon, didn't we?
They weren't very much.
They were really cheap actually. There was like 5 or 6 in the set. I like that. I like that a lot. It's fine. So I'm just going to get my brush and just going to go around this prow end. I've made that the wrong shape at the top, so I'm just going to paint it into vaguely the right shape. I think palette knives, to be honest, I think once you get cracking with palette knives, there'd be no stopping you. I can, you know, I feel the itch myself to continue with palette knives. I was wondering about actually doing this ship, the same, it's not a ship, is it, a boat? Doing the same thing, but there's a bit of dry brushing going on here just to complement the palette knife.
Penny Lane says hello.
Hi Penny, I haven't seen you for a while, I hope you're alright. Do you think it's appropriate to thank people for their donations?
Not by name.
No, I obviously wasn't going to name people. That would be rude. Okay, I'll just say this quickly. Over on my YouTube channel, I have a donate button because, as you know, as everybody knows, paint, canvases, brushes, you name it, are really expensive. And I have tried my level best to keep this free for everybody and ask for donations. And so I just want to say to all the people who have donated, I'm blown away. Thank you so much. Yeah, do you want to try this one? This light. Now he's looking skeptical. So I think that's pretty much the boat done.
It might be shiny for you though.
Go on, just try it.
Medium, bright.
Bright's too bright.
Medium.
Put the light on over there. No, it's too much. It's too much. So finished with the brush. I'll just give it a good rinse out and dry it and leave it to one side to be washed later.
That's alright.
Yeah, that's grand. I don't know if it's any less shiny than it was with the other one. Right, so I said to you, get all your greens out. Let's see what you've got. And let's see what we can use up. So if you've got craft paints, get your craft paint greens out, every single solitary last one of them, and we'll add it to this painting. No, it's all right. I'm quite messy. I'm quite a messy person in general,
And
actually.
she's fine, she's enjoying this.
Oh, good, thanks. So, what greens have I got? I've got Sennelier Abstract Hooker's Green. I haven't got very much of it left, to be honest, but I've got some, so we'll get that out. So like I say, cheap paint, you know, Liquitex Basics or Americana, any of the craft paints that you've got that now you're doing fine art, you think aren't all that, then get them out, get them used up, get them paletted onto this. That was Sennelier. That's the same thing. I put out two things of the same colour. They look different, actually. That one's been in a pot. It's gone.
It's got extender, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got extender in it. So this is Liquitex, also Hooker's Green, but it's really deep. That's a really dark one. So I've got 3 Hooker's Greens out there, and they're all different.
Because you're on camera, you may want to go lighter than you would normally go for it to show up.
Yeah, I'm going to go light anyway, because I like light. I'm going to put quite a bit of that out, because I like that colour. I think that's permanent green light, actually. Yep. This one's a Liquitex one, and it's called Brilliant Yellow Green, and it's really, really bright, which is good, because we need some bright at the end. I'll tell you what else we need that I haven't got out is raw sienna, because there's grasses in here that are sort of browny kind of colour, so we need that. So I'll put some of this out. Blimey, that's it, that's bright. This one is bright yellow green. They're not lying there, are they? And I've got this, but I'm not going to put it out because I really love it, and I don't want to use it unless I really have to. So if I back myself into a corner where I need a different shade of green, I've got this one, which is System 3 Pale Olive Green, and if I need it, I've got it, but I really would like to not need it if possible. Right, so it's just kind of get yourself going, get cracking. So I'm going to spread out some of this Hooker's Green. I'm going to mix some of this light green permanent through it, so it's a bit, you know, don't mix it up completely, let it be a bit mottly on the palette, and then just pick some up. And don't forget what we said about we were going to leave a gap here for a shadow, so don't get too carried away. Now if you look at the reference, there's bits of grass come up across the, see there, at the back of the boat. They're not in the boat, they're at the back of it. So we'll put some idea of that in up here, some suggestions of that. As I say, they're not in the boat. Now you're not painting this with a brush, you're doing this with a palette knife, and so don't try and fill in every last gap that there is. It'll look wrong if you do. So that's just kind of our first colour mix going on. And I'm telling you, you can play with this forever. It is fantastic. So that's about as far around as that goes there, really. Sorry?
But you should put that green, is that not mountains in the background? Should we have lost them?
No, because they're further back.
No, in between the green you've just done.
Oh, right, oh yeah.
You put mountains.
Oh, I got carried away with my mountains, obviously. So yeah, we'll just those mountains that were there, they've gone. They had no place in my picture. So while I've still got this, I'll just carry on putting these interesting marks down. So what I'm doing, again, I've spread this paint out quite thin, but not, you know, not as thin as a sheet of paper, but not much more probably. And it's 2 colours, so it's sort of mottled. And then just run your palette knife at that angle which is, I would say, 45 degrees, give or take, and pick up a curl of paint on the back of your palette knife. And then with your palette knife at about 20 degrees to your canvas, just let it. Now at this stage you can decide whether you want to put your, flat, more of an angle. You'll get the feel for it. You will, you really will. So I'm just going to add a little bit of a lighter green into there. Give us a bit of interest. Come down here. And like I say, really, really you could play for days with this. Days and days. I'm just going to add a little bit of light up into there. But look at the textures that you get. They end up looking just like leaves. It's just such a nice way of applying paint. So mix your colours up on your palette, and then just take a little bit up onto your palette knife. Now there's quite a dark area. It's got some grasses that we'll put on with a brush later, but this does come right up to here. So plenty of foliage up here, and then there's a gap here where there really kind of isn't any. It doesn't matter if you go over the boat, that looks very convincing to me. You all right, Mr. H? You going to say something?
I was going to say the most important thing to remember is don't overwork it, isn't it?
Yeah, don't overwork it. Yeah, definitely not.
We're not plastering a wall.
No, you want to, those lovely passages that you get, leave them. Don't go back over them thinking, oh, I'll just level that off, or, I'll just whatever. Just don't do it. Now this comes up here. It actually comes up behind the boat a tiny little bit, which I hadn't noticed before. I'll get some on the tip of my palette knife, draw it in. So that's just behind the boat itself, and then it comes up here. See, look at this lovely texture that you get. I'm just going to do this slightly lighter, as Mr. H says, for the benefit of the camera, really. So it comes down to about there, and then there's this sort of shadow, really, along there, which we will fill in later with some brushed on grasses. And then it's kind of darker again in this corner. I implore you, beseech you, beg you, have a go with this. You just don't know how lovely it is until you've had a go. It's gorgeous. Crystal, are you experienced in the fine art of palette knifing? Are you sitting there thinking, what is this woman doing? If you are, please post something that you've done, maybe, or it's always nice to see your work. So if you've done any palette knife work, that would be really nice for us to see. So I'm going over now with a lighter green. Once again, it's mottled. It's not all one shade. I don't really like that there, so I'll wait for it to dry and I'll go back over with another green, which is always a possibility with this. Now you get a bit you don't like, so wait for it to dry and then go back over it. So I'm going to use some of this really, really light green now, because I'm also conscious that I don't want this video to last forever. I'm sure some of you have lives. I'm doing this on canvas. I'm sure you know that a lot of the work I do on MDF, but MDF isn't particularly suitable for this because it's got no tooth. You could introduce some tooth to it if you wanted, but it's easier to do it on canvas. This is canvas board from Jackson's for those of you in England. I'm just going to bring that over a little bit over onto the boat, a little bit, add a bit of excitement to its life. And when I've still got this light green, I'm just going to go up into here. Just add a little bit there. There. So I'm hoping that you're seeing what I'm doing and seeing how just gorgeous it's turning out. Well, I think it is anyway. It's very unpredictable. This, you know, I could do another one right now and it would not look like this. It's got a mind of its own pretty much. Let's take some of this light on its own. Introduce little parts, like it's a little plant of weeds. It's just a bit different from the rest. And this very, very light green, which will be my final colour. As I say though, it doesn't have to be yours. You can really go on and on, but don't overwork each individual stroke, because you'll take away the fact that it's a palette knife, and you'll lose the marks that you've made.
Hello, love watching you.
Hi Carolyn, thank you. That's nice to hear. That's cheered me up. Not that I was sad, but it's cheered me up. So I'm just going to put that on there, like that, and just pull it up to get some vegetation up there. Possibly up there too. Yeah, that's a bit better, I think. So you see these lovely passages that you get. Don't be tempted to go back into them, please. This top one, make sure that you do it really quite delicately. Sorry, Mr. H, were you going to speak? Okay, so let me just put that down and see what it looks like. I think it's looking all right to me. There might just be a little bit there, but in an ideal world I'd let this bit dry. But you see how that's smearing, which is what I don't want it to do that. So leave that till it's dry and go back, if you feel you must, go back over it with your palette knife. Right, so in these corners and in these shadows, there is some foliage, but it's really dark. And here it's very dark behind, but there is some scant foliage there, not this thick vegetation stuff. So what I propose is that we go into our dark colours. Oh, I've just broken my palette knife. Leave that into soak and chew. See, I told you I needed a wash, wear and spare.
Which is good advice for many a thing.
It is. It absolutely is. So I'm going to go into my dark, this kind of mid thing here, and it's. I just add a little bit of that dark cooker's green to it. So it's there, but it's kind of not there. I'm really not very good at explaining things. You know what I mean. I know that everybody that watches me knows what I mean. So I'm just going to start with the bone and just...
She hasn't used a palette knife in a long time. She used to do quite a bit.
Oh, Carolyn, get it out. Or them out, the set, or whatever. It's, I don't want to do anything else now with a brush, that's the problem. I've really enjoyed this. And actually, I don't know if I got around to telling you, but I was thinking that next week, so there we are, I've covered that up. It's got some vegetation in it. Possibly not enough actually, possibly need to come a little bit further. I was thinking of doing this exact same boat, so everybody knows how to do that, but have it stuck on a sandbar with water. If that's what I decide to do, I'll put it up in the middle of the week so as you can get your boat done, and I'll put a list of things that we need, requirements in fact. So this is just this, I doubt you're picking this up on camera, but it's there, it's green, so it has got foliage around it, but it's quite dark. So I'm quite happy with that, that's okay. I'll just bring that down there a little bit, like that. Okay, so that's that. So really what we need to address now is the vegetation in here in the corners, and then this stalky stuff that's kind of dried and I don't know what it is, some weed or other. So I need to decide what colour I'm going to do this in. So I'm going to take some of this light green medium, and I'm just going to take a little bit of phthalo blue in with that, just to give it a very different colour to everything else. Even a little bit more phthalo blue than that, I think, possibly. Phthalo blue is such a strong colour. Be careful if this is the path you choose to go down. But I still haven't got enough. Actually, I'm going to add it there because I'm frightened of adding it straight into my mixture. Can anybody tell us if the sound is better tonight or not? If it's not, I'm going to cry because I could have had loads of paint with that money. What we're aiming for here is a colour distinct from the rest. So I'm just looking for a sort of bluey green. That's it. Finally. Yeah, that's a good colour. Like it. Worth the wait. So just pick up a curl and then, oh yeah, look at that. See, that's just completely different. So it gives us, you know, the corners are different. It's an interest. So this does take quite a while to dry as well because it's quite thick. Okay, so don't sort of go overboard with this. I've got quite a lot of largish bits which I prefer not to have, but I've got them, so live with it, eh? There's going to be some bits of raw sienna there anyway for the stalks, the starky bits. Same thing in the other corner.
Carolyn says she can hear you fine.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Just as I said, somebody told me off for not enunciating properly. I do try my best. I really, really do try my best. But it's kind of hard when you're concentrating. You know, I mean, I'm not having to particularly concentrate on this, but some of the things we do are quite complex. Certainly some of the ones we do over on YouTube. So, you know, I'm speaking to my chest a lot. So my chest can probably hear it pretty well.
It's only a worry if it starts to answer back.
Yeah, that would be. Actually, it'd be worth a fortune. The lady with the incredible talking chest. Okay, so I think that's us kind of finished with foliage. I'm quite tempted to put that colour in there. Or even there. I know, Mr. Handyman's having a fit on the side here. Don't wreck it.
Never wreck it.
Wrecked that blooming sheep this afternoon. Made it perfect. And then I just thought I'd do some little thing to it. Before you know it.
Just to clarify, that sheep was a painting, not an actual sheep.
Yeah, no, it wasn't an actual sheep. Although we do have loads of them around here. And it's lamb time. And lambs are one of the joys of life, looking at lambs. They are so happy. I mean, they literally just spring up on all four legs like a little jump jet out of pure happiness. What could be nicer than that? Right, okay, I'm happy with that. Let's get some raw sienna out. I'm not quite sure with my very fancy drawers. Plastic drawers, not my own personal drawers.
Which are far from fancy.
Which are far from fancy. You know, there's the thing about women, you know, when you're younger and you're slimmer and you walk with a bit of a swing in your step, you walk past a building site and everybody wolf whistles at you and people sort of, yeah, you know. And then you reach this stage in life and, you know, I know I'm overweight, but I don't think it's really all to do with that. You reach this stage in life where you wear flat shoes and big knickers and you become invisible. You are absolutely invisible. And I swear I could go into a bank and rob it, and when asked to describe me, the only thing they would say was she was fat. They wouldn't be able to tell you anything else about me. I am literally invisible. It's quite good, really. It's better than, you know, better than when you're younger and all that shenanigans of people wolf whistling and all that, which I did quite enjoy. Everybody quite enjoys it secretly, I think. So I'm just getting a bit of, I think this is yellow ochre actually that I've got hold of. Oh no, sorry, it's raw sienna. And we're just going to put some stalks on, back to our 1/4 inch angle shader. And these are just, you know, the here and there. They're not in a definite pattern.
I can get some very nice marks with the palette knife as well.
Yeah, on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get the bead on like you did before.
Yeah.
Just tap it on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can. On this occasion. On this occasion. I'm doing it with my brush.
I know. Just making conversation with yourself.
Oh yeah, no, you can. This paint's still very, 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 very wet. So I might recommend that you leave it to dry. But I just want to show you what it looks like when it's done. So these, this colour thing, they're not going anywhere. They haven't been anywhere. They're not going anywhere. They're just all over the place. I think they've been alive. They're just kind of now dead. Alas, no more. think I was saying earlier, and I'm not sure actually if Facebook was recording us or not at the time, but we're into May. This is early spring bank holiday weekend, and we had to look outside before because we weren't sure what was going on, and it was actual hail, great big hailstones. I mean, so big that if you'd been outside, it would have hurt your head. And up in Scotland, I mean, we're only a mile, 2 miles out of Scotland, but up in Scotland it's snowing. So it's just ludicrous weather, really. We had beautiful weather in February where everybody started wearing the shorts, etc. But now, they've got snow in Scotland. It's madness. Okay, I don't know if you could see any of that last bit that I put on. I'm just trying to have a look. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. Don't think there's any regions. Is there any regions that need any more? So we've got this bit up here. Got this dark shadowy bit down to the side of there. Which actually is in the wrong place. It needs to come to there. I put it to there for some reason. I don't know why. What that's about. So I need some of this kind of darky sort of colour. I really don't know what I was thinking. Obviously wasn't thinking at all.
Welcome to my world.
You're very good though, aren't you? I mean, you sort out all the blinking tech stuff. If people were waiting for me to do a live without you, they'd have a long wait. That's all I can say. That's a compliment. So yeah, that's okay. All right. This space here, we've got the corners I'm pleased with. I like this foliage. Question is, shall I go back over with my lovely olive green or not? What do you think, Mr. H? He's good. Shall I or not?
It's entirely to you. You're the artist. Your sole responsibility.
Well, there's quite a lot of this sort of yellow, this vegetation that's actually gone yellow. And I'm not prepared to put yellow on that because I've got this very bright colour. And I don't want to wreck it at this stage. So yeah, I'm going to use some of my lovely, lovely olive green. So I'm just going to put some there. And it'll just be a different colour. It'll be something that sort of catches your eye like the yellow does in the reference picture.
Undina says such a good job.
Oh, thank you. People have been really kind to me tonight. It's lovely. Thank you. So I'm not going to add this everywhere. Just little suggestions that we've got little bits of different vegetation in there. How are you spelling that lady's name that you've just said?
Ondina.
Odina. I haven't seen you on the page before, Odina. You're very, very welcome. Especially if you say nice things, you're really welcome. So welcome along. Please join the group and contribute if you want to, and if you just want to watch, see what goes on, that's equally fine too. Although we do like getting people posting their work up. People such as Crystal, their work's totally inspirational. You look at it and it's great. And then there's some people that have started really along with the beginning of the group, and boy, how they have grown. It's amazing. I'm so proud of you all. I really am. Okay, that's enough. Stop. Part of it is knowing when to stop, I will say that. But there's our boat in the bushes. Oh yes, so give it a name. Where's the Posca pens?
The white one is on the very top in your turquoise lamp.
Oh yeah. Okay. So last time I called it Missy, and it took us a whole evening, you understand, the two of us, to come up with a name for this blooming thing. And in the end we decided to call it Missy. This time I'm going to call it Miss P. Oh.
Just a suggestion. Are we giving this one away?
I wasn't going to because it's quite big and it's expensive to post, but now you've said that, it's really mean if I don't.
Because I was thinking if you did, then whoever wins it could choose the name of the boat that we could put on for them.
Ah.
That was my only thought.
Good idea. That's what we'll do. We'll do this as a giveaway. Wherever you are in the world, we will get this to you. Apart from, I believe, Ireland, where they have some funny, what do you call that? Regulations for,
Regulations?
yeah, for incoming
Importing.
That's the very word. Some importing things, but either way, wherever you are, if you win it, tell us what name you want on it. We'll put the name on it. We'll varnish it up for you, so you won't get it. Ordinarily, I don't varnish the giveaways because they're just little boards, and I'm sure people sort of stick them up in the studio and have a look at it every now and then, if I'm lucky. But this one, it's it's a nice canvas board. We'll put a hanger on it on the back for you, won't we, Mr. H?
Yeah.
We're going the full hog. We're going the full hog.
Keep the name.
Yeah, if you could keep the name that you want down to
6 letters.
Yeah, about 6 letters is good. Because after that you start like you get on the back of the boat and it's just looking not right. So I was going to call it the Miss P, but if in Crystal's case she would have been Miss K, whatever. Or think of your own name. Please don't make it rude. I know it's tempting, but please don't. And then we'll get it sent off to you. So immediately that I come off here and get my phone back, I will put a post on for the giveaway, telling you what you have to do. Usually it involves sharing, etc. And then get on it. And who knows, you might win. And the winner will be announced on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. I'll sign it, of course, in the interim. Thank you very, very much, everybody who's joined us tonight. It seems like it's a really nice, friendly atmosphere. So thank you very much indeed. I shall definitely see you next Saturday when we'll either be doing this, but on a sandbar or lino cut or something exciting, I'm sure. Whatever takes our fancy. In the interim, during the week, I'll do a little tutorial on clouds, which are not difficult. Do not get hung up about your clouds. And that's that. So thanks very much, everyone. Bye.
Me and the boys was sitting around drinking. We was talking about things that we was thinking, when all of a sudden, what comes out of Bill's mouth? Said I'm getting old and fat and slow, and I don't recover like I did before from nights of rabble, rousing and too much fun. Well, I looked around and we all agreed, and I had a drink and I ordered 3, and I staggered back to do it all again. And we made an oath on a rum and coke with the best intention, I'm sure you know, that we would stop this living in excess.